Sammy? No, if not, shall I go? Let's go to Jamal and then we'll come back to Sammy. Okay. Um, Jamal is here, I've seen in the group. If we can unmute Jamal. Yeah, Jamal, you're there. Okay, if we can unmute Jamal.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Just to introduce you again, Jamal, just so everyone knows, Jamal's an activist. He's been actively advocating for Baloch rights for over a decade. He experienced forced disappearances by Pakistani forces, but eventually, Jamal, thank God, you were released. After fleeing to Bahrain, he lived there until moving to the Netherlands in 2022. He's continued his advocacy for Baloch rights. He's currently media coordinator of PATANK, the Human Rights Department of Baloch National Movement. He represented Balochistan at COP28 in the UAE as well. Jamal, over to you. Okay.
First of all, I would like to thank you for organizing this and thank you for raising our issue at the UK Parliament. It's uh, for Balochistan for decades, people have been suffering, people have been struggling, people have been dying to be heard, to be heard from the international community that what has been happening in Balochistan, and we rarely find that someone talks about these issues, especially the issue of enforced disappearances, which has become so common in Balochistan, which I personally am a victim of. And uh, you can say that when a person is picked up, he his status of being a human is dropped at the very moment when he is picked up. Then he's no more a human being for the authorities who are involved in the disappearance of that person, as I had myself experienced it, and I was abducted by the Pakistani forces. They introduced themselves to me as the intelligence agency's members, and they interrogated me, they tortured me, and then after severe torture, I was released. During the torture, they were continuously trying to uh, pressurize me on giving them some information about the people who are engaged in political activities in Balochistan. They just wanted me to work for them when I was getting released. So there was only one condition that they had to release me at that moment was that I will work for them further. And that condition only, I will be released. And I had to have an agreement with them that I will never share what happened to me, what happened. It's obvious and it's with every single person that gets released has to have an agreement with the military. It is rare that people come out of those torture cells. I was lucky enough, I can say that I'm out and I'm speaking to you right now, speaking to others right now. There are so many other people, thousands of people currently in Pakistani torture cells, and I would say that place is unbearable. People may hear numbers from Balochistan, like if I would say, quoting the report of Pank, that in 2 years, 2,000 people were forcibly disappeared, which is average 3 people a day. It's a number for some people, but as I have experienced it, it's terrible, and I can see images that what they are going through right now. They're going through a severe torture that is unbearable for human beings. And uh, the way how systematically they practice this crime in Pakistan. First of all, they have convinced their people that it is justifiable to abduct anyone in Balochistan. This is why you will never hear from Pakistani journalists, from Pakistani parliamentarians, from the people of Pakistan that the majority, I mean, there are some people that they have showed concern about the enforced disappearances in Balochistan, but the people's mindsets are already controlled because they have already built a perspective and manipulated the issue, trying to make the people believe that those who are forcibly disappeared are actually against the state. But that's not the case. Not everyone that is abducted is against the state or is against is to break Pakistan, as they say, in pieces or involved in militant activities. That's not the case of enforced disappearances. When I was abducted, they were continuously telling me that you are from Mand, you have been in Gwadar, which is the port city, and you have been politically active since I was active from 2006, and I joined multiple protests in Balochistan. The continuous efforts of them was to make me work for them in those areas where I have been and give them information about the people, even though I had no involvement in any such activities that they always try to promote, and they always try to let their people tell their people that these people who are possibly disappeared are actually not innocent. So their effort in abducting people is to basically silence them in a way. In Balochistan, you cannot have an opinion. If you have an opinion which contradicts the opinion or the way how Pakistani politics works or how Pakistan's military works, if it contradicts to that, you are eligible to be disappeared, and for them it is justifiable to do whatever they want to do with you. So even though if there is a water crisis in your area, you ask for water. What happened in 1947, where minor children were shot and killed in Giovanni? If you go and protest and you say that we don't have water and we need water, for that even people get disappeared. The basic concept of Pakistani forces is that you cannot raise your voice against the state. You cannot say anything negative about the state. If you say that, if you do so, then they will forcibly disappear you. They will try to force you through torture that you should withdraw from your activism. What you do for the people, what you do for Balochistan, or now even it's common in other parts of Pakistan, but Balochistan has been affected from this practice from more than 40 years. And there are thousands of people right now who are possibly disappeared, who are missing. Recently, one of the senators of Pakistan was forcibly abducted. He was abducted for 16 days. And when he was talking in assembly, he said that his mind doesn't process anymore. He cannot talk anymore. It was just for 16 days. And we can imagine the intensity of the issue for those like Dr. Deen Muhammad, whose 15th year is continuing, and the uncertainty that he is in right now, that whether he would be released or whether he will stay further in the torture cell, the uncertainty for his family, the continuous uncertainty that I would say it kills the person, the victim, every moment. It kills the family members of the victims every moment, whether the person is alive, whether he's gonna come back, whether he's not gonna come back. So this is the situation of enforced disappearances in Balochistan. The military is trying to impose uh, influence on the people, and the people should say nothing. They should have no say on the issues they face. Even since I have been a victim of enforced disappearances, it is so close to my heart that when I was released, I was, as I said, I was lucky enough to flee from the country, and that is why I'm able to share my testimony and my story, what happened with me in Balochistan. We have been working on some other reports. I cannot say that I am able to represent the overall issue of enforced disappearances, but there are multiple cases that differs from mine, and they have faced worse consequences of their activism in Balochistan. We have recorded multiple cases, and we have, through PARC, we have documented several testimonies, like Khan Muhammad is one of them, who was abducted, and he was lucky enough that they tried to kill him. They shot him. He was shot 8 times, but he survived. His video is on the internet, that when the local people find him, uh, uh, then they make a video of him, and later he's taken to a hospital. Since then, he's hiding from the military, but he has shared his story, how we have already documented that story, which is available on social media, that he shared what happened with him. He was shot, then he survived, but 2 others who were shot along with him, unfortunately, they couldn't make it, and they were killed in that incident. In another case, there was a, a Swedish national who was abducted from Balochistan, and he was disappeared for 12 years. We tried to record his testimony, but the problem was that when he was getting released, just like me, he had an agreement with the military that he will never speak up. He will never share his story, what happened with him in Balochistan, what happened in those 12 years. And he had to, the military was satisfied to release him and trust him when there was another guarantor for him, that if he speaks, if he says anything about his disappearances, this is why that there are thousands of cases, but you can hear very few people talking about it. For me, if I was still in Balochistan, I would never dare to speak up. I would never dare to share my story, because I would never want to go back to that torture cell again. So the people, when they are released, they have to give a guarantee to the military. There are very less people, as I said before, that have been released. Just as Ehsan Arjmandi I was talking about, he was abducted. He is a Baloch, but a Swedish national. He was disappeared for 12 years. When we recorded his testimony and shared it to public, then they tried to abduct the person who was his guarantor. We received so many calls from his family that please, they begged us to delete his testimony. We had no other option to delete his testimony, because we could not risk someone else's life. And so far, we have seen no efforts from international community that was satisfying for us to resolve this issue, because resolving enforced disappearances issue is not a single person's release or a few persons release. The number is in thousands. And as I said, the average number of people getting disappeared is 3% every day. Just now we are talking, I just received a message that someone got disappeared from Balochistan, which we later had to report to the media, so that people know what is happening in Balochistan. And this is the intensity of enforced disappearances in Balochistan. What we expect from the world is to pressurize Pakistan, because Pakistan is somehow, its army is convinced that they have to crush us, they have to kill us, they have to torture us. When during in my time when I was in torture cell, I had a feeling when one of the military officers, he was torturing me, he was continuously saying that you are an infidel. You are working against the army of Muslims. So the one who is torturing, even inside the torture cell, he is very much convinced that we deserve this. We must be tortured. We must be face the worst that we can. So in such a situation where hatred is at its peak, where we have no human rights at all, we don't have a say. If we say, then we are disappeared and killed. We expect the international community to build a pressure. Pakistan does not act upon recommendations as we see in what happens in UPR in the United Nations. The countries are continuously recommending Pakistan to withdraw from these practices, but Pakistan still continues it. Even though Pakistan's prime minister, caretaker prime minister, recently he was indirectly he was admitting it that they are behind the enforced disappearances. It was during a TV show he was talking about the enforced disappearances, and he says that it is justifiable because Pakistan's courts when there are these political activists are brought to the court and court then sets them free because there is no law in Pakistan that would suggest any judge that he should punish a person over his activism or having an opinion. This is why they conduct enforced disappearances in Balochistan. But I don't think that recommendations to Pakistan would work and resolve this issue. To my knowledge, as I've been active in Balochistan from 2006 till date, I'm working on the issues of Balochistan and having a close look to how they work, how they operate in Balochistan. It is must that international community, the countries like UK, should develop economic pressure on Pakistan that would pressurize Pakistan to withdraw from these criminal activities. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Jamal, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. And it's sharing first-hand experiences like that, I think is absolutely critical because it gets across exactly what people are having to cope with at the moment. So thank you very much. And again, thank you for the work that you do with such determination as well. I'm just checking now to see if Sami is here. Do we know if Sami has arrived?
So Sami's internet access is restricted, and that's why she's unable to join today.
Okay. Okay. There's obviously been some problem with some areas of Balochistan in terms of the internet as well. But let's just celebrate this meeting. We've got 500 people here talking about this issue, and the speakers, I think, have given us an excellent presentation of what people are having to endure, what they're suffering, and what these issues are. Can I thank everyone for attending, thank our speakers, thank our organisers, and I just want to sum up in this way. This is from my perspective as a British MP, for me now, this is a continuing campaign. We'll work together, and there's 3 issues, I think, for me to take away about the actions that are needed. First is to do everything we can to expose the human rights abuses that are taking place and to use every vehicle that we can for that. For me, as a member of Parliament in the British Parliament, the UK Parliament, I'll use that platform as often as I can to expose the human rights abuses. And as I say, we've had the debate, we'll have further debates and further parliamentary questions to ministers, and we now have a meeting to be arranged with the Foreign Office Minister who deals with these matters, and we'll be taking a delegation to see him. The second thing is to do everything we can to secure the protection for campaigners and for all of you. And in addition to exposing what's going on, it's also to demand protection. So how do we do that? The third point is this. I think we do everything we possibly can to mobilize international opinion, to put pressure on the Pakistani authorities, to secure people of Balochistan just basic civil liberties and human rights. In the discussions that we've had, there are 3 areas. One is to have the UK government working with international partners, other countries, to make representations to the Pakistani authorities, to put pressure on them as much as we can. But also there's this second issue, which is Pakistan receives large amounts of aid from not just the UK, but from other countries as well. It's how we can use that aid to ensure that Pakistan itself respects basic human rights and also the civil liberties of the people of Balochistan. The third area that people have raised is the issue of trade, the trading links between the UK, other countries as well in Pakistan, and what conditions can be applied in those trade deals and trade arrangements. I think just finally, I think the United Kingdom, the British have a specific responsibility with regard to this issue because of its history, but also because of the final role that the British government played when the future of the area was determined in 1948. Britain played a role not just in the past in terms of its role as a colonial power, but also in that particular period when Balochistan had its desire for independence and to determine its own future. And unfortunately, I believe that the people of Balochistan were let down by Britain and others in the international community. So I think there is a specific responsibility there that we should impress upon the government here for the role it needs to play now. Obviously, people have concerns about the resistance of the Pakistan government, the Pakistani authorities, to any intervention by international powers. But at the same time, it's a role that I think we have a moral responsibility to play, working with all of you as campaigners to secure freedom, civil liberties, and of course, your right to determine your own future. Can I thank everyone for attending? It's been, I think, incredibly successful to get so many people together in a Zoom meeting like this. I want to thank the speakers for their clarity and the way that they've presented the issues that people are facing now. And again, I repeat, thank them for their courage as well in their campaigning of what they're doing. This won't be the last Zoom meeting like this that takes place. We'll try and ensure that we mobilize in this way on a regular basis, certainly so that we can give report backs on what's happening within the UK and the campaign that we're waging here, and also that people can keep us up to date upon what's happening in terms of the various campaigns that are taking place in Balochistan. Okay, thank you all very much for coming along, and I wish you all well and solidarity.